Hey everyone, this is Rachel and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. If you hang out until after the video is through, there are always detailed shots of my current layout. Let's get going! Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Product Placement, the series I do with Kelly Oblak. This particular month we are featuring brads. Now I don't have a whole ton of brads. I went through my stash, probably four or 5 years ago, and I got rid of all those little metal brads I bought back in 2009. That I never ever used them, so I gave them away to like a school or a senior center, or so hopefully someone who would use them for arts and crafts. I do have a few My Mind's Eye and some by Prima. These are also My Mind's Eye. So I was thinking they would work well with this paper I have. I have recently gone through all of my papers and kind of tried to reorganize them and keep track of what I have, and these two pieces of paper are the only two pieces of paper I have from the girls' Paperie. They are from the Paper Girl line, and this is from 2010. So I only have these two sheets of paper. They're not particularly a style I normally go through. If I'm remembering correctly, I believe these came in a Studio Calico kit I bought that, like, older, like way back in the day. But I bought them like on super duper clearance, like 90% off or 75% off, something like crazy like that. So I probably bought them in 2013, but they were super old when I bought them, in the scrapbooking timeline of things. So, but I thought they would go perfectly with this photo I have of myself when I was little. Look at my head. I have a bowling ball head. See? Round bucket head. Anyway, so this photo I thought went perfectly with these particular papers. And this is probably 1980. I know it's before my brother was born, so I know it's before 81 because otherwise he'd be in the photo as well. Also, I'm 99.9% sure that a grandparent paid for these photos, because when I found them, they were literally like just a boat ton, and they had like the accessories, like the little locket you could get with your photo, and we were poor, so I know for a fact a grandparent must have paid for that. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm nattering on and on. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I've been thinking about what to do with this layout for a little bit now. It's not my normal style, but I'm thinking with the color pink and the timeline of the photo, this was 30, 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago. I keep having to count farther back every time I do a photo of my childhood. And then I'm like, oh wait, no, almost 40 years ago, not almost 30 years ago, and Zancy's decided to try to join us. But so I thought this would work. And so I'm going to go ahead and get you guys put on fast forward and go ahead and get started with my layout. All right. Okay, so I'm going ahead and I decided I'm going to use those two bright green brads, and then I'm going to pull the rest of my brads from that Prima pack. I'm not going to end up using any of the other My Mind's Eye. The backgrounds of the brads were just not the right tone for this particular paper. Now I am going to use this pink floral tone on tone, well, not really tone on tone, but cream on pink paper as my background, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut up the patchwork paper into the little squares. Now I know for those of you who watch my videos all the time, you're probably like, that's not the trimmer you normally use. No, it is not. This is one of those things where I realized last minute that I was going to a crop the last weekend. Well, it's a one-day crop, but I was staying overnight at the hotel. And I realized I had this due May 1st. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not really going to have enough time to scrapbook this page and have it up for May 1st.
unless I scrapbook this before I go away for the weekend. So I had already packed up all my stuff. I mentioned in my haul video I did coming back from that crop that I really hadn't been scrapbooking. So I'm like, well, we'll just use my backup trimmer. That's fine. Forgetting I'm really not all that great with my backup trimmer. So a lot of these things I end up having to trim again and again. Now, Xanthi had gotten to my ATG, so I had to restring it. And you'll see she kind of poked her head in there because I brought out my ATG and had opened it all up. So I am going to mat, as you see, I'm matting my photo on this the back side of the patchwork paper, which is that very distressed blue. And because I'm not used to working with this trimmer, I did cut that wonkily, so I did have to recut it, re-glue it, and put it back down. Everything works out in the end, although there's just kind of tiny little mishaps I do all throughout the layout. So my idea is to take these patchwork pieces and cant them back and forth on the right hand side of my photo, and then I have those two half pieces, and I'm just going to use that on the top left hand side, and that way it just brings both the patchworky pieces to both sides. Now I am going to ink all of these pieces with Vintage Photo Distress ink. I am doing direct to paper inking, mainly because I'd already packed my ink blender and I didn't feel like getting it out. So when I do direct to paper ink blending, I do let the paper sit for a minute just to give that ink a chance to soak into the paper, because there's more of it going to the paper rather than when you use your ink blender tool. So this Prima pack, this is pretty old. I've had this for a while. And this particular one has both hexagonal and circular brads. And I'm using a mix of them. I'm also using a mix of sizes. So my thinking is to use the patchwork pieces as I did. And here's where I'm trying to see if any of those brads will work, but they just aren't the right color. So as I was saying before, is to put brads where the pieces overlap. Now I mentioned in my introduction how I like the look of brads, but they are quite a bit of work. For me, I'm a lazy scrapbooker. I will take embellishment clusters already put together. I like things on the simple side. This is the hobby. This is fun to me. So I want this to be as simple as I can have it. But I do really like the way this ended up turning out. It's definitely not my normal style, but I very much enjoyed doing it. So here I am, and I'm just making sure the different sizes are together, different colors are together. And then I'm going to put two brads over on that left-hand side on those little pieces. That's also where my title is going to go. So right now I am looking for my thickers, and I decide I'm looking for something that's going to contrast with all of this lightness and softness, but not be too graphic or bold that it's going to stick out. So I decide on these Good Tidings alphas. They are a chipboard alpha, but they're nice and soft and curly and almost a script. And you'll see as I'm placing them down, I'm actually going to misspell the word little. And you think, well, she'll fix that when she goes to glue them down. And that would be a no. No, I don't fix it when I go to glue them down. I'm going to get through this entire layout. I'm going to take my photographs and not even once notice that I'm spelling lilt as opposed to little. So when I come back to it afterwards, I do realize it. And luckily for me, all I need to do is swap an L and a T. And because they're chipboard and I glued them down, part of them stuck to the page. But luckily, because they're both the same shape, I was able to cover it up perfect. I decide I'm going to add the word so my entire title is going to be So Little. Now, here is my pokey tool, and this is I think it's by We Are Memory Keepers. I'm pretty sure I bought it at Michael's, and I'm also pretty sure you can still get it at Michael's. The other side of the pokey tool does have that, what's supposed to be a brad spreader. I don't think I've really ever used it for that. I've used it to flatten staples, but I don't think I've ever used it to spread brads. If you hear noises, I apologize. I have my window open because it's super nice out here. and it hasn't been super nice out ever this year, so I wanted to have the windows open. So I am placing my final two brads in that upper left-hand corner, and after that, I am just going to do my journaling and add a little bit of shimmers to my layout. I used a lot of patterns on this, so I wanted to keep it relatively simple. I also wanted to highlight the brads. So, oh, here's another oof I made. I forgot, not having my normal trimmer, the brad will impede the height of my paper and it won't work having it trimmed off like that. So I did go ahead and grab my scissors, and now I'm grabbing my, uh, or just a piece of plastic to draw some lines. I'm just doing a few lines of journaling, talking about how, look at how cute I was when I was such a little girl, and blah, 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 so on and so forth. All right, thank you guys so much for joining me here. Please make sure you go on over to Kelly Oblak's channel and check out her take on this product placement of brads. And here is my shimmers in concrete, and that is going to finish off my layout. Thanks, so guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you could flick me a thumbs up, that would be super awesome. Bye, everyone.